Hello everybody, welcome into another lesson. So today we are going to talk about using the discriminant to determine the nature of solutions to a quadratic equation. If you recall, the quadratic formula here is given by negative b plus and minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. This lesson we're only concerned about with what is called the discriminant, just the b squared minus 4ac, just the portion under the radicand and not the rest of it. The reason it's called the discriminant is because, well, it discriminates. So for example, if that b squared minus 4ac, that portion under the radicand, is greater than 0, you get two real solutions. If you think about it, the square root of a positive number and then all this, you're going to have two real solutions. Now if that discriminant, the b squared minus 4ac, is exactly equal to 0, you'll have one real solution. Because anything both plus or minus 0 is just itself, so you would have one real solution. Now, if that discriminant, the b squared minus 4ac, is less than 0, you'll have two imaginary solutions. So the square root of a negative number is an imaginary number, right? So you would have two imaginary solutions. So we're going to do some examples here. This shouldn't be a super long lesson, but we're not actually solving equations in this lesson. We just want to know about the nature of the solutions. So, for example, let's say we have x squared minus 4x plus 10 equal to 0. So we're given x squared minus 4x plus 10 equals 0. Well, we want to know about the nature of the solutions. We're just going to find the discriminant. So the b squared is that negative 4 raised to the second power, then minus 4 times your a of 1 times your c of 10. Alright, so negative 4 squared is 16, minus 4 times 10, that'd be minus 40. Well, you get a value of negative 24, right? Well, that means you would have a negative square root, so you're going to have two imaginary solutions. You'll end up having two imaginary solutions since that discriminant is less than 0. So this is all we're going to do in today's lesson. Just use the discriminant to find the nature of the solutions, not the solution itself. Alright, so now we have x squared plus 3x minus 6 all equal to 0. So x squared plus 3x minus 6 equals 0. So take your discriminant, which would be the b squared, so that'd be 3 squared minus 4 times your a of 1 times your c of negative 6. This would turn into 9 plus 24, which would give you positive 33. Well, the discriminant's positive this time. It's greater than 0, so you'll have two real solutions. You'll end up with two real solutions in this case, since you would have the square root of a positive number. Alright, x squared plus 14x plus 49 is equal to 0. So you have x squared plus 14x plus 49 equals 0. So take your discriminant, which would end up being that b squared, so that'd be 14 squared minus 4 times your a of 1 times your c of 49, which would 14 squared is 196, minus 4 times 49, that would actually be minus 196, which would give you 0. So the discriminant's exactly equal to 0, which would just give you the square root of 0, so you would just have one real solution. There is one real solution to this quadratic equation. right. 3x squared minus 10x minus 5 is equal to 0. So 3x squared minus 10x minus 5 equals 0. So take the discriminant, which would be that b squared, so that negative 10 raised to the second power, minus 4 times your a of 3 times your c of negative 5, which would end up giving you 100 plus 60, which would give you, of course, 160, which is definitely greater than 0. So you'll have two real solutions. You'll end up getting two real solutions to this quadratic equation. All right, next is 64x squared minus 16x plus 1 is equal to 0. So you have 64x squared minus 16x plus 1 equals 0. So do your discriminant, you'll take that b squared, so that'd be negative 16 raised to the second power minus 4 times your a of 64 times your c of 1. Well, negative 16 squared is positive 256, and this would end up being minus 256. So 256 minus 256 is 0. So you'd end up having one real solution. Since the discriminant's exactly equal to 0, you'll have one real solution. Four more. So let's see. We have negative 2x squared minus 5x minus 4 is equal to 0. So we have negative 2x squared minus 5x minus 4 equal to 0. So do your discriminant, take that b squared, which would be that negative 5 to the second power, minus 4 times your a of negative 2 times your c of negative 4, which is going to end up giving you 25 minus 32, which would end up, of course, giving you negative 7. Well, your discriminant in this case is less than 0. You'd have the square root of a negative number, so you would have two imaginary solutions. So the nature of the solutions in this case are you'll end up getting two imaginary solutions. All right, three more. You have 7r squared minus 3 equals 0. So 7r squared minus 3 equals 0. So do your discriminant, take the b squared, which in this case is 0 squared, minus 4 times your a of 7 times your c of negative 3, which of course would give you 0 plus, what's 28 times 3? So let's see, it'd be 56, 84. So that would just give you 84, which is greater than 0. So you'll have two real solutions. So for this quadratic equation, there are two real solutions to this. Two more problems, then we're done. Oh, good one. So we have s squared times the square root of 5 plus s plus the square root of 5 is equal to 0. Alright, so we could still do the discriminant, which would be your b squared, so that would of course be 1 squared minus 4 times your a of the square root of 5 times your c of the square root of 5. So this would end up being 1 minus 20, which would end up giving you negative 19. Well, your discriminant's negative, it's less than 0, so you would actually have two imaginary solutions. You'll have two imaginary solutions to this quadratic equation. And I got one more and we're done. Alright. Negative 4t squared plus 20t minus 25 is equal to 0. So we have negative 4t squared plus 20t minus 25 equals 0. So take your b squared, that would end up being 20 to the second power minus 4 times your a of negative 4 times your c, which is negative 25. So 20 squared is going to end up being 400. So negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16 times negative 25. That's minus 400. So 400 minus 400 equals 0. Since your discriminant is exactly 0, you'll have one real solution to this. So you end up getting one real solution. And if you ever go to use the quadratic formula, a nice shortcut is work out your discriminant first, because then you could just do negative b plus and minus the value of your discriminant over 2a. Which, I mean, really it's the same amount of work, but it might psychologically trick you into thinking it's shorter because you already have the value under the square root. But next lesson we are going to talk about graphing quadratic inequalities. So I hope everyone has a great day. Take care.